there a Bears game this week?
Tonight.
Tonight. Who they're playing?
Vikings.
You Bears fan?
Yeah.
You Packers fan? Cowboy? Oh, your Packers? And Cowboys? 49ers? Like the 49ers. All right. Hey, so on Blackboard, I added the first 3 weeks of modules, and they correspond with the syllabus. So basically, just reiterating, read chapter 1 in week 1, and then doing that first suggested activity. All right. So the suggested activity will have the page number, and there'll be 4 or 5 questions on there. So answer the questions and submit them. And they're each worth about 15 points. I give you, so for the first 2 weeks, I give you until this coming Sunday at midnight. So you got a week to kind of catch up with the last 2 suggested activities. I'll add the rest of the modules probably today. What I'm thinking is for the behavior management plan that's listed on the syllabus, I think I'm going to break it up into a few plans. One, I'm thinking that you can work with an individual that needs some sort of behavior modification of some sort, someone willing to participate. It can be a child if there's some sort of consent from the parent. It could be an adult, but I don't want to limit you. I know it'd be difficult to try to get somebody to participate sometimes. It can be a colleague here at the university. I make it easy for you. Someone willing to kind of participate. So that would be one plan. And we'll kind of talk about what everything will look like in terms of what I'm kind of looking for in your analysis, modifications, etc. So I figure we do one with an individual, one with classroom. So maybe a classroom here at the university, keep it simple, keep it convenient, right? Where you can go talk to a professor and see if you can sit in as an observer. Now, I would kind of say pick a class that's big, you know, where you can just kind of hide it out in the back somewhere. Maybe there's an extra seat. The lecture halls are sometimes the one like the one in the Christopher Center. There's a large classroom. Observe the behavior, observe the teaching methods of the professor, students' reactions. Are people disturbing the classroom? What's going on, right? And come up with some sort of plan maybe that you can give to the professor. Right? Have a discussion with the professor. Now I would say don't kind of talk too much to the professor through the length of the plan, right? Because he's biased, he or she is biased, right? So you just want to give him a plan maybe 5 results, right? That way there's no discrepancy. Oh, you don't like my teaching methods, you know, that type of stuff. So one for an individual, one for a classroom, and then I was thinking one for an organization of some sort. Now, once again, I know this stuff is kind of challenging just to coordinate, but maybe you can pick an organization to observe and see can you come up with some strategies or maybe help something. Maybe, for example, like we saw, like, hey, people don't recycle, you got to recycle again. You know, something you can make observations to give to a manager, supervisor, owner, et cetera, et cetera. Yes, sir.
We do, because like I'm on the tennis team, kind of do the tennis team, as like an
Yeah.
organization.
Tennis team is an organization of some sort. So think of anything that involves like a cooperative group that needs improvement, right? Always needs improvement. So I'll kind of let it, you know, open-ended of your choosing. You know, once again, I don't want to limit, because I know it's kind of difficult sometimes to get people or groups or companies to cooperate, right? So I'll do 3, and I'll put those hopefully in the modules today. So we'll do 3, and I'll break them up maybe a week, like week 6, the first one week 8, week 10 and 12. Okay, so yeah, so think about that. Really what we got going on in class is we'll have our observations every week. The written assignments, they're already on the syllabus. There's 7 suggested assignments, suggested activities. We'll have our 3 plans: visual, classroom, organizational of some sort, and then midterm final. How's that sound? Pretty straightforward? Alright, yeah, just keep it interesting. Keep it interesting. Alright, who have some observations for today? Who has an observation? So, someone email me, who email me with the presentation? Yeah. You have something, anyone else? Can you email me? Are you for Mondays? Can you email me something? You're not here Wednesdays. Right? Remember, as we think about behavior modification, think about for our introverts. We don't like to right? What can we do? We gotta apply this stuff to real life. It's great to apply it to others, but we can apply it to real life to say, I wonder if I could change something about me, or what are the factors contributing to my behavior? Right, which kind of leads into what we'll talk about today. Environmental support, right? You tell you, anyone can have a problem, whether they identify it or others identify it. So if someone identifies it, usually you're part of some organized system where there's an expectancy for you to behave a certain way, i.e. school, right? Which is why we usually focus ABA stuff, applied behavior analysis, on school-age children. You're in a system, you're gonna be in a system for a long time, it'll involve classrooms, desks, places to sit, work that needs to be turned in, lessons that have time frames, and trying to make everyone kind of stay the same kind of placement as they progress through, which we call cohort, right? So you say your cohort is usually people of your same age demographic doing the same type of things, right? So your cohort is around people your age within the same sphere of activities in terms of college and work and where you are in life. Right? My cohort will be different, right? We will be doing different things, thinking about different sets of problems for my cohort, your cohort. You all have probably similar problems, right? Each case is unique, but probably a lot of generalization. All right, so remember, this word primarily is used for school-age children, right? We're talking about as people who have autism, part of the spectrum, and we don't want to get the idea that autism is this funnel tiny thing. Autism is a huge spectrum of social, emotional, communicative issues, right? And we say relative to your cohort. So if you're an 8-year-old, your frame of reference is other 8-year-olds who need certain criteria in terms of learning, grades, moving to the next grade as well, right? So we all get kind of different frames of reference. Now in psychology we have something called the fundamental attribution error. And it usually means, hey, when we see somebody's behavior, we usually reference to them personally. For example, I may have mentioned this before, but like road rage, right? You're driving down the highway, someone veers into your lane, you immediately react. Probably the first thing we do is use profanity, right? Next thing you do, you may use a racial slur. You may say something prejudicial. If you saw the person. Next thing you may do is want to catch up with them, whether at the ramp, the light, or just the speed, so you can see their face. So you can confirm something in your mind. Right? Because we have confirmation bias, we force things so it confirms that beliefs. It means we don't look at things without confirming. Alright, we look at this person and I knew it. so the first thing we do, so we say, this is the type of person that will do this thing. Automatic response. First of all, if you use profanity, you weren't thinking about using profanity. Once you say an automatic response, using automatic response refers to long-term memory. Long-term memory is a permanent thing. It requires no mental energy whatsoever. It's like an other you just responding outside of thinking. And if you use some sort of prejudicial or racial slur, you're like, that's interesting too, right? Then you go talk to someone like, I'm not that way. You're like, okay, well, your automatic mind is, your unconscious mind is. Right? But the point is, what's happening in a person's life who you're very like, I don't know, maybe they got bad news, their parents just died. Right? Hey, mom just died. Hey, oh my gosh, your wife just went into labor. Dude, you're fired. You're later. Anything, right? That could be part of situation or circumstance that would make someone behavior certain. So we have to kind of stop and think to ourselves, kind of with any behavior. We're like, all right, is it the person? Is it the situation, circumstance, or the environment causing them behavior? Now think about that. We see a lot of stuff on the news all the time. And maybe the first thing we think of, because once again we have confirmation bias, we say, oh, because of my political belief, aha, it is because of this. It's my religious belief, it's because of this. These are anyway. Or any other reason you can think of that's personal to an individual, without considering, like, I wonder what's in that environment that could be causing people to behave. We know environment is the most impactful thing. Like I say, if you were to go to prison, by tonight you'd be creating a shame because you know your life is at risk. It's a different environment. So it doesn't matter how nice you thought you were before that. Now you modify your behavior because this is a different environment. The same would correspond kind of to any group of people that you could think about, like, right? Religious, political, all these sorts of things. On some environmental factors that may be contributing to the behavior or mindset. So this is kind of what we're talking about today. Now, this week, we want to kind of catch up because we really kind of should be. Remember I said these slides kind of correspond differently to that supplemental reading. So try to catch up to like chapter 5 or 6 Friday. This is on my chapter. Okay, so, hey, behavior does not happen in a vacuum. Any and everything is in the client's environment may affect his or her behavior. Right? Is it too hot? Temperature. Anything could affect the behavior. I know what affects my behavior. My mood changes immediately if something's too crowded. Even the way I think, my brain becomes crowded. If the room is dark, I probably won't be as happy. I kind of, what would you say, environmentally sensitive. You're like, oh man, you got seasonal depression. I do. I hate when it's cold. Right? It impacts my psyche. Right? But we say, is it too hot? Is it too cold? Is it too bright? Is it too noisy? Right? Think of the learning environment. Is the classroom set up in a way to where things are noisy? Is the classroom too cold? You gotta wear a coat to class. Is it too hot? Right? Is it too bright? Too bright too early? Yeah, it's too bright too early. And even for others, is the work too challenging, not challenging enough? Right? Some things that we consider. Which would kind of affect behavior. Like this work is sucks. The topics stink. The topic is boring. Maybe the topic's not boring. Maybe how one teaches it is not engaging. Right? Maybe examples are not enthralling or something, right? Many different things. Now we say this to say like, hey, we have to get to the finest points of things that are occurring in our observations to see what's truly causing people to act before they react like that, and to see that the actual behavior and what people do after the fact to it. Right? So very minute kind of things. Hey, the behavior problem may be a call for help. The problem may be that the environment is not supporting the individual. Anything that you could think of, observations that you've made in life where you're like, hey, I see where this environment really doesn't support positive behavior change for individuals. Anything you can think of. Like, man, this environment doesn't, this environment kind of supports bad behavior. Okay? Or definitely doesn't help. Anything you could think of. High school, grammar school, outside, anything. Nothing? What about your high school life? Your high school experience? Was there anything there you felt that wasn't really supportive to the learning environment? Or to make students better? Yes, sir.
It's like unnecessarily forcing like uniform policies didn't really change much or help learning at all.
Uniform? So like the dress code? Yeah. You're like, hey, that may impede because, hey, that's a limitation or a restriction to self-expression. Self-expression might be part of people's self-worth. Self-esteem might be related to that. And now if you're restricting my own self-worth and self-esteem, I may react in a negative way. I may be kind of against it, right? Or defiant. I may be defiant. It's like rules are too tight. Too tight of rules creates defiance. It may be not part of the natural order for a lot of students. So yeah, uniforms create a mindset. A mindset of order and rule of law. The individual may have limitations that exacerbate environment, like we just kind of stated. For instance, how might the following environment, now on the next slide, there's a video, right, of a child learning something. So for instance, how might the following environment be better arranged to increase the probability of success for this child?
Mom.
Thoughts? What could be better arranged to increase the probability of success for that child to learn about their success?
It felt like the books on the table were almost like a distraction for him.
Yeah, you say, clearly say, the child's attention goes elsewhere, right? So you're not getting his attention because there's too many objects on the table, obstructions, the books. Yes.
Yeah, I was gonna say, he might have been like overstimulated by the amount of erasers, like trying to, figure out which ones do which, I guess.
Yeah, you're like, hey, too many erasers. You want somebody to learn about erasers, you have a plan back home to show them all the different categories and types of erasers. Or I can show them one, two, I feel that they're reinforced with that type. And then move on to the different types of reinforce step by step in each category of erasers. Yes.
There's also like two like background colors. Maybe you could include this in the dogs.
Yeah, I heard kids in the background screaming and crying, and we say, hey, stimulus, right? Something that even subconsciously is dividing, taking away your attention. Anything, if it's random, is very stimulating. Now we can hear the fan of the projector, or maybe hear of the vent, but it's consistent sound. So we kind of like white noise, right? It's not really going to affect us that much. If anything, it might kind of make things soothing, right? Because it's kind of breaks up the silence. It's consistent background noise. But if it's something random, like somebody randomly screaming, yeah, unconsciously your attention will drift away and be stimulated to us. Okay, all right. Let's see. Andy, you want to come first?
Hello. So my behavior that I chose to talk about today is how people stay at restaurants past closing time. How many people here work at a restaurant? Well, I do. And even
Bar,
though we
right?
have, yeah, it's a restaurant and a bar.
Okay.
But even though we have a closing time, like if you look on Google, it says we close at this time. The kitchen will close at that time strictly. But if there are people in there, we can't just say get out. But especially around football season, and I was reminded of this yesterday, people at the bar specifically, they do not leave. And it's just such an inconvenience to the people working. Like in this image, it shows it very well, how everybody's kind of waiting. And it's like, that's money that the company's losing. Well, pay mine. I mean, like, it doesn't matter to me, but like, technically, it's money that the company's losing by paying these employees all this extra time that they don't need to all be paid, but they can't leave until, this table leaves. And I just think it's a little inconsiderate. Like, there's like, if there's a bunch of people in the restaurant, it's fine. But if it's you're like the last group of people, there's like, we can't just say, okay, get out. We'll say last call, we'll give you your checks, but then people will continue to still sit there. And it's just like, there's not much, like, you turn the TVs off, you turn the sound off, and they're still sitting there. I don't know what else could be done. Like, I was thinking about it, it's like, you could be more strict about it, but it's hard, especially when you want to keep like a good reputation for your restaurant or your business, because you don't want to be like pushy, I guess.
And it may be long-time customers that come there all the
Exactly,
time.
especially longtime customers. You would think that they would get out sooner, but it's almost like they do the opposite. They feel like they can stay later because they're regulars or whatever. I don't know, it's very annoying to me. Very annoying.
All right, anybody with any ideas, right? We say, hey, this is an environmental thing. What could we change in the environment to induce people to kind of leave a little bit quicker as opposed to just lingering around?
Declare like a certain time to stop serving anything, like food, drinks, whatever.
That's what we do, but because that's what last call is. So the kitchen closes strictly, but the bar can serve. Like the kitchen usually closes 30 minutes before our scheduled close time. But then what happens is the bar is able to serve until the scheduled close time, that extra 30 minutes. And even after last call, they'll really like milk a drink, And even if it's not about that, they don't care if they have drinks. Their table will be empty. They're just the top ones.
Have you thought of anything else, like
No, like.
sounds, light changes?
Well, that's why I was reading something that says like to dim the lights when it's closer to closing
Gotcha.
time. But our restaurant's pretty dimly lit already, so I don't know if that would really work. But then also we
hard for young people usually like realize that if like when you go down that way, so
The demographic at where I work, it's a lot of older people, and I feel like they don't take the hints as well. But turning on the lights really bright actually, because we have like a on dimmers or whatever, but turning on really bright actually might, I feel like that might be something that would be like, okay, it's time to go. You know, I never thought of it like that.
Yeah, you may get to the point where you actually start putting tables away and just come grab their table.
Well, it's like we put the chairs up around, like there's one table left, all the chairs are up around them and they're just still sitting there. It's like, don't you feel uncomfortable?
Yeah.
You know, I don't know. That's it.
Okay, excellent.
Thank you, thank you.
Who here, like, after you pay the check, you still hang out like an extra 15 minutes? Whether they're closed or not, it could be, you know, in the middle of the day. So you, when you pay the check, you normally get out fast. Right? Sometimes not late. I think it really depends on the type of restaurant. Okay. Excellent. Right, so hey, for that example, right, so, you know, oftentimes mom or dad would hear like, oh, your kid just doesn't pay attention, right? For that child, that was, oh, your kid has a good, I don't know, maybe it's right, we hear all these sorts of things, but if we were to just, like we did, just observe that instructor, we're like, no, you're just not implementing things in the world that well enough that makes for the child to actually be engaged, right? So this happens to be why a lot of kids are overdiagnosed with all sorts of things in schools, misdiagnosed with all sorts of things. Because unless mom or dad actually came and saw what was happening, they're just getting secondhand information, right? But then the question is, well, what exactly is happening? A lot of times these people don't want to take accountability for a poor plan. Seems like you got a poor plan. Your strategy is not working for this child. Each child has some considerations. Another consideration too is questionnaires to the parents. Environment support. So you're like, well, tell me about the environment that the child lives outside of this school, outside of the neighborhood. How big is your place? 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom? People. What time do you guys have dinner? Do you have dinner at the table? Everybody's sitting on the sofa watching TV. How is it his family? Et cetera, right? Because there's one thing trying to force like a plan in a certain environment, but you're like, there are things out there that may be working against you that you need to consider part of your analysis so that you can execute more proficient. All right, after you have determined the environmental factors, you begin with identifying the behaviors and skills in which the child needs to work. So some other things, who needs to be involved, right? So I just stated like, hey, you collaborate maybe with the parents, maybe collaborate with some siblings, if there's some siblings that go to school, or older siblings, collaborate with some administrators, you know, so we say there may be some collaboration needed to gather information, take data and hypothesize functions of the behavior, right? Because sometimes you may not work alone in this line of work. You may really need to kind of work tightly with other people in order to get better information, right? And observe the functions of the behavior. Now here's the other challenge. We're like, all right, we're working with others. We may not work well with others, right? So now we got a whole nother issue when it comes to behavior. Like, well, with our behaviors, we may not work well with others. Anyone has a problem working in groups? Anyone? How so?
You
said I like, you asked how I have a problem with it.
Like what sort of observations you make about group dynamics or yourself working in groups?
So I would say personally, I like working by myself, but that's also because I trust myself more than most people, or like other people in general. Especially with somebody that you don't know. Like for example, I had to work with, I had a neuroscience class last semester, and I had to do a project with like 4 other people. And one of the people just left the class, so we were already at a disadvantage. And the other 2, even though they were a year older than me, they didn't really set up schedules. I practically had to make sure everything was still moving. So,
Okay.
yeah, it's pretty random. You don't know who you're working with, so.
Yeah, think about that. You're like, hey, I have an expectations for myself on how I achieve success. Now you're telling me to work with other people, trying to make them achieve the same level of success with me. If they got their own personalities, dispositions, work ethic, perspectives of success. It might be aiming for B's, I'm aiming for an A. Right? These are people might be like, hey, C's are good enough, et cetera, et cetera. Along with attitudes, right? All these sorts of things. So like, hey, working groups is challenging for anybody, right? Unless you're just kind of a natural leader, which means that you can work with jerks and still get the job done. You may not transfer your level of stress and anxiety in terms of perfection to others. You may be a good read on people. See, like, I say this person's laid back. I say this person's type A personality, right? It takes a lot of skills, right? So you're like, well, there's some other behavior modifications that go there too with ourselves, right? Anyone else? What about that?
For me, I feel like, me personally, I get too stressed out, like, thinking about what they're doing or what they're not doing. Because if like it's sectioned off and I do my part, then I'm good, but I'm worried, like, are they gonna do their part? Are they gonna actually put the effort into it and try, if I'm trying?
Yeah. Think about it, it's the same here. And what you're telling me is like, I'm concerned about the information that these people have, that they're not gonna do anything, or they're gonna do crap with it, right? So it's the same way, it's like, it's almost, you come into a group dynamic, now you have to teach people. Because once again, you've made a good read on people, you're like, how do I go about this? I see somebody's really lazy. I see somebody that really care. How can I still make them do their part? Get a strategy. Now, one thing you say, how categorize the work. I'll divide it in a way that maybe each, you're like, well, how do you go about that? I don't know. Oh, hey, would you like to do this? Like to do that? That'd be one strategy. Maybe you take control and say, no, I'm gonna pick the strategies. I've identified myself as the leader. Everybody's kind of listening. I'll pick whatever you want to do. Right? I got to divide it even further. I'll bullet point each category with different turn endings, different times of setup, meetings, et cetera, et cetera. They're like, hey, you also have to do kind of an analysis and assessment with other people in the group, even before you get to the clients. Like, they're not clients, but they're part of getting to achieving goals for the clients. Right, so we say sometimes we think we have the answer. Right, you may think you have the answer. There's no perfect information in the world. Right? So what this means is, hey, this requires a multitude of steps, and it may not even work the first time or the second time, right? You're like, hey, okay, not everyone may agree. People want to do different things in terms of the amount of work. Hey, you may think this is a good idea, but will it really help you get your point across? Challenging work. It's challenging being a professor. Like, how do you make everybody get it? Right? You could come up with a strategy like, oh, I'll make it try to applicable to the real, normal, everyday life as possible, that could be a thing, right? But then like everybody got different experiences, and not be applicable. It's challenging to get the point across so that the message is consistent to everybody, right? The understanding is consistent. So once again, we have to think of ourselves with different strategies, think of a better way to convey your ideas. Like, man, I've always struggled with people working in groups, right? So we say, do we change the group? Or do we formulate a multitude of strategies for ourselves with different types of groups? Like, man, you put me with a bunch of lazy people, but I got something for this. Gather strategy